Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns has been confirmed for SummerSlam. I'm Ollie Davis, this is Luke Owen. Welcome to the WrestleRamble Raw Review edition, where we're not going to be as down on this as we were last week, because we knew it was going to happen. When Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley was booked for this week's episode, when they both won their various triple threat qualifying matches last week, which weirdly seems like an eternity ago. But we knew this was going to happen. We thought Roman Reigns was going to go on to defeat Lashley, so he'll take on the Beast. It's the latest version of what so at WrestleMania we thought this is it. Roman's finally going to beat Brock. Brock's going to go off to UFC, and then we can just get past this and go on to another main event chapter of WWE. Because we've just been stuck in this story for years now. 3 years and a bit, really. And then that was delayed to Greatest Royal Rumble. Oh, this must be the time that Brock finally drops the belt. Nope. And now we haven't seen him since. It's about 90 days now since Lesnar last showed up on WWE TV. And surely SummerSlam's the one where Reigns finally beats Lesnar. So yes, this Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley, of course. Reigns won this week. Yeah, I'm just disappointed. I'm not furiously angry. It's just sad, isn't it?
Yeah, we got a lot of messages on the old Twitter machine this morning saying like, oh man, I can almost hear Ollie Davis raging about this, and I can't wait to hear him rant about this on the podcast. But no, it's just it's not the same this week, because like we said last week, we were pretty sure this was going to be the outcome. Roman versus Brock at SummerSlam, 50-50 booking dictates that Lashley won at Extreme Rules, so Roman has to win here. That's the way that this company operates.
Ridiculous.
Okay, so in the lead up to WrestleMania, I did a weekend video where I said, here is why Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar is a good thing for WrestleMania 34. And in that video, I said, because we can just move past it.
Yeah.
We need to do this match so we can just move past it. And I'd said in that video, and I can't believe this is... I never thought this would come to fruition. I did say in this video, if Roman doesn't win the belt here, we're just going to have another year of this, and then we're going to try and coronate him again next year, but it'll be with someone else. And lo and bloody behold, I think that's where we're heading. Roman's going to win the belt at SummerSlam, Braun's going to cash it in, and then Braun's going to hold the belt for the rest of the year until WrestleMania, when Roman finally stops the unstoppable monster, Braun Strowman. I don't know why it hasn't twigged with us this much sooner than this. That's why Braun's being booked like this unstoppable monster. So Roman can beat him at WrestleMania. It's not because Braun is over. It's not because the company's behind him. They just want Roman to be able to conquer someone.
I disagree. I think the company likes Braun. I think he's been protected to the level for so long now where it actually shows that they're invested in him rather than they're just building him up to feed to someone.
Well, I'll hold you to that come WrestleMania.
Okay,
35.
okay. I don't know why I even make these predictions.
Yeah.
But yeah, this match, Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley for the main event of Raw, I thought this one felt a lot more significant than the Extreme Rules match.
Well, this one had a stip.
This one, yeah, there was something at stake, which was the number one contendership for Brock's Universal title. And they had interviews throughout the night. There was a pretty decent video package, which kind of just made Extreme Rules seem like a week of Raw, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like, here's the build-up from Raw, then this thing called Extreme Rules happened. Don't worry about it, it's not that important.
Well,
and now this is the real one here.
In all fairness, more people are watching this than watched Extreme Rules.
Yeah, so... And there was a much more agreeable crowd, which helped the match. Lashley and Reigns at Extreme Rules kind of died a death because, where was it? It wasn't in Pittsburgh, was it?
It was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
That's where the happened.
Yes, so the crowd were quite lively, and they chanted for a lot of other things other than Roman Reigns and Lashley. But here, I thought the crowd were a lot more invested. I thought it was a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match.
Yeah.
Again, and we've said this many, many times on the show, shocker, Roman Reigns had a good match, because Roman Reigns is a good worker. It's just that they booked his character into oblivion to the point where no one could possibly care about him at this point. But the kids were really into the match. They showed a lot of kids at ringside. They showed a lot of people really reacting to this match, hoping to see their big dog win the match so he could take on the Beast at SummerSlam.
Well, that was interesting because it did seem to be quite a pro-Roman crowd. A pro-man crowd.
Nice.
And Lashley, I think this was...
You go back to your plant theory again?
No, not that many people. That's not a theory. That guy can say I wasn't a plant as much as he wants. But this, I felt like that was
his name, fan_WWE.
That was, it was built into, his email address was at WWE.com.
Verified on Twitter.
And Lashley took a large portion of this match. And there was a moment when Lashley's got Roman in some form of rest hold. Can't remember which one now. And the crowd were like, come on, Roman!
I think it was the full Nelson spots. Because the commentators were really putting over that full Nelson spot like it was a genuine submission. And it kind of reminded me of... Do you remember when Dolph Ziggler started using the sleeper, and he tried to get it over as his finisher? And at the first time he did it, the crowd were like, sleeper holds don't really mean anything anymore. But Ziggler kept doing it, and he actually genuinely got it over as a submission move. And I was watching this like, I wonder if they're going to try and do this with Lashley now, that they're going to use the full Nelson, the master lock, as a submission hold for him.
It's a shame because it's unbelievable, because if Bobby's got you in a submission, just slip out. He's already lubed you up for him. The man sweats.
We got a tweet, and I'm going to apologise because I cannot remember who sent it to us, but I believe it was their wife noticed how sweaty he is and has renamed him Bobby Splashly.
That's good.
So good.
Splashly.
I like that a lot.
Okay, how the word of the show a few weeks ago was schlam. I want some splashlies. Hashtag splashlies in the comments.
Really
comment on other people's videos, preferably Bobby Lashley ones on WWE's YouTube channel.
Bobby Splashly.
Tweet them. To tweet Bobby, hashtag splashly.
Yep.
I mean, I'm a sweaty man, so it's not like I am making fun of something I don't have.
Well, you and I, yesterday, I walked into the studio yesterday, and I said to you, I was like, oh, it's quite warm outside, I'm a little bit sweaty. And you turned around and were genuinely shocked at how sweaty I was.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to melt in front of my eyes.
I was literally, I was like Ice Cream Kitty from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was just melting all over the place.
But yeah, so the crowd got into Roman here, and he won, and then there was a cheer. It was like not like this is the top star of the company, not Braun reactions.
It wasn't Austin winning.
No, or Seth Rollins where everyone's genuinely in there. It was just like, yeah, a good guy won. It was that kind of reaction, which made me think, good grief, you're setting this up for a fool. Because now you've got Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in New York, the smarkiest of smarky towns. It's going to be... like an enclosed arena rather than the WrestleMania Open thing where these sort of reactions dissipate and don't sound as loud, even though they can do, at least on film. And it's going to be this contained pressure cooker of hate.
Well, bearing in mind as well, SummerSlam is now being pushed as the WrestleMania of the summer. So that they're getting a lot of the European crowd coming in. People are flying in because well, I've got to go to WrestleMania, now I've got to go to SummerSlam as well, because it's a big 5-day event. You've got the 4-day event, you've got NXT, then you've got SummerSlam, then you've got Raw, and then you've got SmackDown. It is the WrestleMania of the summer, and it's a big 6-hour event. So yeah, it's going to be the same crowd that were there from WrestleMania, more or less, just not as many of them.
And New York people.
And New Yorkers.
It's just, you call this a match?
Is that your New York voice?
Yeah. I think it is.
Coffee.
I'm walking here.
That's much better.
It's a bit better.
So yeah, this crowd is very much not going to be on side. But then again, whatever match Roman was going to have at SummerSlam, the crowd weren't really going to be on side for it anyway.
But now you've also got Brock in there. It's go-away heat for both guys now. WWE have managed to do that to one of their most reaction-garnering performers out there with Lesnar. So it's not going to be the kind of good heat that makes an enjoyable spectacle. It's going to be the kind of heat that makes you hate wrestling fans. But at the same time, you're like, well, what can you do?
It's going to be Beach Ballermania.
Yeah.
It's going to be Beach Ball Slam all over the show. And there won't be a Cesaro there to go into the crowd and tear it up and look like a goddamn hero.
Maybe there will be. Maybe they'll just put him at ringside.
It'll be a lumberjack match so Cesaro can just be there to be on Beach Ball watch.
All the roster. Just snapping. Every single member will raise Roman's hand at the end of it. That's another thing that happened at this match. Yeah. After what was a good match. And if this was any other storyline or wrestler, I would actually be into it. I thought this was nicely done, the way Bobby Lashley reluctantly raised Roman, he shook his hand,
and he looked really pissed off at the end because my chance to become the Universal Champion has slipped through my fingers.
But again, the sweat. Splashly's not doing any favours for him. But I thought, it's just, that was a good visual and the way it was executed, but it's just the latest one of these stupid endorsements. Daniel Bryan, The Rock, The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Oh, it's I'm super over it. Like, this could be good if it wasn't the tip of a larger iceberg of lameness.
Yeah, exactly. And to a point that you and I made last week, which was, we were talking about these 2 triple threat matches, or it was the 2 triple threat matches, wasn't it? And you're like, wow, there's so many cool possibilities you could have had coming out of this that would have been like new and fresh. And we said, like, if it was going to be Roman versus Brock at SummerSlam, then why do Bobby Lashley? Because we just seen that Extreme Rules. Vis-a-vis, if it was going to be Bobby Lashley, why do Roman Reigns? Like, why bother? Do something new and refreshing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, correctly sort of speculated that, it'll be a triple threat match. There'll be some shenanigans, and that's why it had to be both of them winning, because then you can build the triple threat match at SummerSlam.
Wouldn't have minded that at all.
I wouldn't have minded that at all. But because it was just Roman winning, Roman wins LOL, I'm like, God damn, why did it have to be Bobby Lashley then? Why couldn't it have been a Drew? Why can it... no, Drew was in Roman's match, wasn't it? Who was in... It was Seth and Elias.
Yeah, Seth is the natural one.
The two Spider-Men pointing at each other from that meme. Either one of them would have been great.
Well, the great loss of this all, really, beyond the larger, just almost white noise of Roman versus Brock again, is what this has done to Bobby Lashley. Because you had a guy who had some momentum, who had a decent storyline coming off the back of the Sami Zayn nonsense, and he had a win over Roman Reigns. And what you've done there is Lashley beats Reigns, Reigns goes on to finally win the title at SummerSlam. You've got an inbuilt, prearranged story there for Bobby to go, you never beat me, son. And then that's a ready-made feud.
Lovely stuff.
And
do that at the Super Show.
And if you do the triple threat thing, you can carry on that story. You've never beat me, Roman. If Roman pins Brock to win the title and in a 3-way stipulation. Yeah, so poor old Bobby here, I don't know what he's going to do now going into SummerSlam. But he had some momentum there, and that's a shame.
Haha, it's a Raw review looking jacked, man.
Oh my god. Just incredible. Incredible. Women can wrestle too, Luke.
We witnessed history. We witnessed a groundbreaking, innovative, death-defying, what a big announcement this was. A historic announcement. People will talk about this day. Like when they do the top 25 Raw moments, this will be in genuinely the top 5, because it was such a history-making moment.
Oh, yeah. And it is. Like, on paper, it is. But WWE just have this habit of making everything feel like a press release and stripping away all the organicness and genuine emotion by doing this scripted nonsense. And So, okay, let's run through this. The show opened after being promoted earlier in the week or day about a historic announcement that Stephanie McMahon's going to make. And the show opens with the entire roster, the Raw roster at the top of the stage, with some SmackDown women too.
Yes, and the 205 Live guys, which means they flew in the 205 Live guys just to stand there on the apron.
Yeah.
Or stand there on the ramp, rather.
Yeah, because I saw Drake Maverick. I couldn't see any others.
I think there was a couple. I think I spotted a couple of the 205 Live guys there. But yeah, that means because 205 Live don't tape before Raw, so they were flown all the way in for this, and they got flown now over to SmackDown. Well worth the money, I guess.
Do you think they got excited? Hey guys, we're going to get a 205 Live pay-per-view. Maybe a 205 Live tag division.
Maybe. They did register those belts, didn't they? Or like designs were submitted or something along those lines. Like trademark designs had been filed.
Do you think there was an admin error in that they just emailed everyone under a certain weight category, and of course all the women fall into that bracket as well?
Well, you'd think that, but Roman was there front and centre, wasn't he? So...
Well, the Raw guys were there regardless. Have you seen the kayfabe news article?
I did, yeah, Woman Waynes.
Woman Waynes.
Really made me laugh. Roman in this big red wig really made me laugh.
So they're all up there, and weirdly, Vince McMahon is in the ring, looking like, he's an old guy now. And it's just strange to see this person who I've still got, I think of Vince McMahon, I know time is a thing, but I still think of him as noughties Vince McMahon. Yes. Or, late 90s Vince McMahon.
Exactly. Like, at the moment, he looks like he's auditioning to be the new host of Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that sort of old person eyes thing where they go a bit cloudy.
Oh, bless his heart.
It's just, it's just weird to see. And he was like, okay, if you're going to bring him out, like, make it a thing. But it was just Vince McMahon there in the ring. Let me bring him down, Stephanie and Triple H.
And that was it. And they came down. So Steph's and Tripp came down, and Triple H then had this very nice speech. He was quite close to tears, talking about how proud that they are of the women's division and the work that they've done in here. And Stephanie does a promo about and then turn it around to the fans, being like, you wanted #give divas a chance, and we went from 30-second matches to main events. And because of fans like you, women's wrestling is now taken seriously by this company. And I've written here, it's time to get to the point, Steph, because at this, they were going on and on and on with this. Well, okay, sorry to interrupt you. To the point where they were building this up so much, I was like, this is going to have to be a really big announcement. Because at one point I was like, they're going to replace SmackDown with an all-women's show. They're going to do it as like a weekly thing. Because they're building this up as like this big historic announcement, like a groundbreaking, never-before-heard concept. And I was like, this is going to be pretty big. And then there's like, it's an all-women's pay-per-view. And I was like, is that it?
I think maybe that's just because we knew the rumours beforehand. Well, that is a big announcement.
I didn't, because I hadn't listened to that episode of Wrestling Observer Radio where Dave Meltzer and Brian talked about it at length. I hadn't listened to that, and I hadn't seen that Ticket Drew had been talking about it. I hadn't seen that a lot of people had been talking about it.
WrestleTalk News talked about it
I didn't watch your episode. Was it your episode?
It was Fakadors.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch Laurie's episode either. So I didn't know what it was going to be. I just heard before I went to sleep that the SmackDown roster was going to be there, or the SmackDown women's roster was going to be there as well. And I was like, well, this is going to be pretty big. And it is because they were building this up and building this up and building this up. It's to your point, when you put so much pomp and circumstance around something, it's got to deliver. And I think that all the pomp and circumstance they put around this press release being on TV did not deliver on what we got. But it is an exciting announcement. It's an exciting announcement, not, don't have everyone out on the stage, trail out Vince and all this sort of stuff.
Well, that's it. I'm not against it for that reason. I'm more against it that I would like stuff like this to come out of storylines or come out of angles rather than everyone go, okay, let's just take a pause here. This thing that you're watching, okay, let's just stop pretending that's real for a moment, which, is pretty difficult anyway because we're essentially all just people simulating a combat sport and it's predetermined and everything. So, that main criticism of wrestling, that it's fake, let's just indulge in that for a second. It's fake. We're going to stop it. Let's do some corporate stuff. Okay, now we're back into the show. And it's just like, I hate that. Why can't you just save that for your conventions and your business meetings and stockholders' calls and have stuff, announcements like that, weave it into the fabric of the show. Don't make it jar so much with the rest of the action and the narrative. So that's the reason I didn't like it. I didn't think that they promised too much.
And I'm in agreement with you, and I do not disagree with anything you said. That was actually my other issue I had with this, is that it was all just a very big fake announcement. Stephanie's out there as a babyface, making a big babyface announcement, and then later in the show it's like, right, you got to forget about that because I'm back to being heel Stephanie again because I'm now in a backstage segment in the storylines. And my other issue I have with this is that you've just got to remember, Ollie Davis, that the women are a gimmick. They're not on the same level as the men. They're a gimmick. They're a plaything for Stephanie McMahon, and they're just there to be PR nonsense. And so they're not really. Don't take them seriously because they're just a gimmick. That's why we're giving them their own gimmick show. To the point when you and I were looking at the pictures and just getting so infuriated looking at them. When they announced this, all the women had to go like, oh, yay, wonderful, hug each other despite the fact that they're meant to be feuding with each other. Like Asuka and Carmella were stood next to each other. It just makes them look so lame.
Yeah, it's like, oh, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. I don't want that from wrestlers. I want them to portray themselves as badass fighters,
wanting to fight for a challenge and fight for a championship.
And you know what, I was thinking about this. I'm fully behind an all women's pay-per-view. I think it'll be really interesting, and I really want this because we've been watching a lot of our new favorite. What was it? It's Japanese women's wrestling promotions.
Yes.
They're amazing. So I'm really excited to see what sort of matches they can have with more I guess, freedom and not as many time restraints, like the sort of NXT matches of old. Really looking forward to that.
And it's going to be NXT heavy show as well, because they've announced there's going to be 50 women on this show. And there are about, I think, like 20 or so on the main roster, maybe like 25.
Well, they were struggling to get the Women's Royal Rumble match filled up.
I know, so they have to do a lot of NXT calls. And the NXT Championship is going to be on the line on this show. The NXT UK Women's Championship is going to be on the line.
That's rumoured, right?
No, that's reported at WWE.com.
Oh, wow.
I have that
Okay.
listed. And they're going to be having the finals of the Mae Young Classic too. So this is going to be very much a Triple H produced show. And it's going to feel like an NXT show on the main roster. That to me sounds awesome. I'm well up for that.
Definitely. And but it's so I was thinking, like, I'm fully behind that, but the way this was all done, like you said, did make it seem rather patronising to the idea of women's rights. So I just thought, if you wove it within the fabric of the actual narrative, that wouldn't come off as patronising. But I was thinking about this. Wouldn't it be interesting to... And I don't know if this would work. I'm just sort of saying this. I haven't really thought about it that much.
Interesting. I like this, Ollie Davis.
Well, like... Not a sort of misogyny gimmick character, but the men and the... Like, have a show, like a Survivor Series, where the men and women are like, we're going to steal the show. The men are like, no, we're going to steal the show. And the women are like, no, we are. And there's never any, like, misogyny in there. Like, well, you can't steal the show. You're a woman. It's just they both talk each other up. No, we're better. No, we're better. And you almost run a split down the card, women's match, men's match, women's match, men's match. And you just say, hey, go out there and try and steal the show. Have the best match you possibly can. I think that would actually be more productive long-term to elevating women's wrestling to where it's perceived to be alongside men's wrestling than having an isolated bottle episode where it's just women and there's no comparison. I'm not against the all-women's idea. I just thought that would be an interesting thing to do down the line. I think it could be more effective.
Perhaps, yes. But we know we're down this route. I will say as well that the name sucks.
Evolution.
Oh my god!
It's a Triple H produced show. You said it yourself.
Well, yeah, but it's a mystery as well, isn't it? I don't know, man. WWE Evolution or Evolution. There's always going to bring up that argument as well. Is it Evolution or is it Evolution? No one really knows.
Or Revolution.
Yep.
For a bit.
Exactly. Hashtag Women's Revolution. I think DVD releases or what have you. So I think this is a good thing. I think the branding sucks, and I think the way that it was announced sucked a little bit as well. It just reminded me of the Royal Rumble announcement, where everyone's just standing in a line, and they all hug afterwards, and they all go like, "Yay, isn't Stephanie great? Isn't this company awesome?" And I'm like, guys, just like...
The company was the thing that made this problem in the first place.
Competition, like, let's go with that instead, shall we? Yeah, actually, to your point, this company is 100% at fault that we have to have all this stuff at this point.
Yeah, so also just as a little thing, Nikki Cross was there on the stage. The only non-main roster, or at least officially debuted main roster person on there, which was interesting.
So weird that she was just there. Because I know she's been doing SmackDown house shows and lead up, which is why I think she's going to be debuting at SummerSlam. But it was just so weird for her to be there. Just on the stage, randomly. It's almost, I'm almost can guarantee you, Vince doesn't know. Vince doesn't know that she hasn't debuted on TV.
Stagehand.
And it was like, just fly everyone in who worked the SmackDown house show. So that includes Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross came along and he's like, now you go out and stand there, not knowing that she hasn't debuted yet.
It was really weird, because it's not like she was in the back.
No, she
was front and centre with Sasha.
She's like 4'2". You have to put her out the front, otherwise you're never going to see her.
Yeah, not as short as Zelina Vega.
No.
In heels, she's still a foot below everyone else. It's remarkable.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure that my wife is 5'0", and I think she would even be taller than Zelina Vega.
But heels. That's why she can do those really cool hurricanranas
into the stairs
when people are on their knees already.
Yeah, exactly.
And it looks like a spike thing. So it does work for her.
Also, the other thing as well, and perhaps we're going to I just have to get used to this because the pay-per-view is not until the end of October. They mentioned it a lot on this show.
Yeah.
So it's going to be something we're just going to have to get used to. We're going to be flogging this horse for a while about how awesome this is. So let's be excited for it now, because come October, I'm going to be like, I can't wait for this goddamn show to be over so they don't have to talk about it anymore.
It's bizarre. Yeah, it's like, okay, everyone, let's acknowledge we're playing characters and none of this is real for a moment so we can announce this landmark in the company's PR policy. And now let's all go back to playing our characters and talk about that thing we just did
Yeah.
and how great it is. It's like, it's so, because, yeah, throughout the night, everyone really at the start of their promo or backstage segment had to start with, man, that's really good news about the women's division.
Did you hear the announcement? It was great.
Yeah, I did hear the announcement because it was repeated and recapped 2 other times.
I was going to say Michael Cole at the top of every hour had to recap everything. It was mentioned a lot. On our Discord fan chat for WrestleTalk, there was a guy on there who was counting along with it and gave up. He was like, I can't be able to keep up with counting it anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so next up, the other, which I thought, was a much better way to weave a real-life thing throughout the narrative of the show, was Elias. His debut LP, or EP, whatever you want to call it.
It'd be an EP, because
an EP because only 4 songs, yeah. That was released on Spotify and all these various streaming platforms earlier in the day, and here he is. He's going to do a performance for us. He's on the ramp, sort of the entrance bit to the side, but he keeps on getting interrupted.
Yes,
I thought it was very funny.
It was very funny.
First interrupted.
It led to nothing, but it was very funny.
Yeah, it should have had a better payoff.
Yeah.
So before Elias sung that song, though, the B Team were one of those acts that were backstage going, God, I can't wait to that Women's Evolution pay-per-view.
The heels, the B Team.
Are they heels?
I think they're heels.
Just a thing, I think.
I would say that they are heels, but I don't know.
They do a little comedy thing where they're all talking about how excited they are. They walk off, then they skulkily come back. Oh, yep, forgot our tag titles, and then go.
Hilarity ensues.
That was out to the Deleters of Worlds for the tag team title rematch.
Yes, and guess what? Deleters of Worlds ran wild early, then an ad break happened, and then when they came back from the ad break, the B Team were on top instead.
And it ended in a fluky win for the B Team.
Yeah, so there was a bit of confusion. Like, Bray gets knocked into Matt, and then Axel sort of accidentally schoolboys him and gets the pin, and then they're like, oh god, we won. And then the Deleters of the World stood there and applauded them, and then attacked them. This feud must continue, I guess.
Yeah, the Revival was shown watching backstage, as they have been last week as well. But, yeah. What the hell is the tag division right now?
I'm so glad this feud gets to continue.
Why can't we have a tag team pay-per-view?
We can have another match at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think SummerSlam is going to be largely matches we've already seen based on the 3 for 3 so far. Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman.
Yep.
Saw that last week. Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental title. Saw that last week. Bobby Lashley versus... Sorry. Oh, no. That's not a rematch. This week was a rematch.
Say again?
Well, I was going to say Bobby Lashley versus Roman Reigns. We sort of... But no, that is...
No,
there you go.
It's Roman versus Brock, but we saw that at WrestleMania and the Greatest Royal Rumble. Also, it's Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens, only this time without the cage. So it's actually less of a match this time.
Same with Rollins and Ziggler,
Yeah,
without the Iron Man stipulation.
We've used the gimmick to build to a regular match.
Very bizarre.
At least we get Alexa and Ronda, though. That's new.
Deleters of Worlds. Do you think that was a heel turn at the end?
No.
I mean, the tag division needs something, but I don't know if it's that.
I've got a new favourite phrase for the Matt Hardy as well.
Go away.
This is from How to Wrestling's Patreon podcast when their host Kevin described Matt Hardy as doing more delete chants than actual wrestling moves.
Yeah,
I like that.
Then we got some some hilarious comedy next, folks.
Oh yeah, we did get this. Yes,
it was Finn Balor and Chad Gable. And they're talking about how excited they are for the women's wrestling pay-per-view.
So chummy. Finn and Chad just then again like, God, it is great, isn't it? It's going to be so awesome. And then Finn gets distracted because someone's carrying his suitcase, and Chad goes, "That's definitely your suitcase. I recognise it," because suitcases look just so iconic to each wrestler. They're so unique to them.
The amount of travelling they do, I hope they do put like a little... I always put a scarf round mine, so I know where it is on the conveyor belt when you do baggage collection.
Recognise my bag.
Yeah, but yours is that like frog-shaped one, isn't it? With the little kiddie pulley bits, and you can sit down if you get tired.
My wife can pull me along. Yeah. I think you talking about the one that my wife got me as my wedding present, but that is that one. So yeah, the case is being taken away, and then so Finn then's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And the guy says, "We've got to take it to your new locker room." and Finn's not sure, and he walks over, and it's a doll's house. I actually written at first it was a dog house, but I thought that was a pun.
That's where Roman Reigns gets changed.
Yeah, but no, it's a doll's house, and this bit did make me laugh, because Corbin walks in going like, ha, 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 well, you see, I am tall and you are short, therefore you have to have the shorter locker room. Ha, bet you feel so stupid now. And Finn goes, no, actually, I love it. And Corbin's face was like, no, you're supposed to be annoyed. And then his face turned, and I really enjoyed his selling of that. It was like, I'm going to book you in a match with Drew McIntyre, which would have been great had they not already announced that Finn was facing Drew McIntyre on commentary and pushed it on social media. So if this was like where that match was booked, a much better payoff. But as it just seemed really odd that he was like, oh, I'm so mad at you, now I'm going to book you in a match that's already been announced.
I didn't find any of it funny.
I liked Corbin in this.
No, I didn't even find Corbin funny. On paper, that could have been funny, but I guess it's just disappointed at this point.
Oh man, if you really didn't like Corbin making fun of Balor's height, he'll do it later on as well, just in case.
Sasha Banks and Bayley have a recap of their relationship so far, and when Sasha Banks dramatically, in air quotes, revealed that she loves Bayley, not in a romantic way,
a platonic way,
just in how like I love lamp, in that kind of way.
Yeah.
And it comes back to them both watching this video package in the weird angle. They are both looking so happy. And I was like, they've totally had sex. This was like this was the smiles of like, yep, that was last week. Hard cut. Yeah, we went and did it. Now we're fully on board. I don't think that's the story they're telling.
Yeah, and it felt so good.
They're just friends, I think. But they just look too smug for my liking. I thought that was sex face.
Yeah, they just had sex. Anyway, so they said that they've had a long talk and they're now on the same page. However, I suppose the key to this promo, at least my key taking a key talking point away from this, is that Sasha said that she goes, because I love you and I know you feel the same way, but Bayley has never said I love you back. And I wonder if that's going to be their build, is that Sasha's always going to be the one that says I love you, but Bayley never says it. And that's going to lead to the Bayley heel turn. Sowing seeds. Subtlety, which is actually something that WWE don't do well.
Oh, Jesus. No, this is bad subtlety, though. This is drawn out way too long.
Oh, but
7 months.
I mean, this has been going on since the Royal Bloody Rumble. It's actually been going on since Bayley came back from injury last year. We're getting on for almost a year long with this feud.
Yeah, so if this really is the end of their weird feud thing and now they're a tag team...
This is just the next chapter, man.
Well, it's just like, what was the point? I feel like they've scrapped whatever feuding plans they've had. And then they beat a jobber team, which was different to see. A sort of female jobber team.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
The local enhancement talent. I don't think I've... Oh, no, they used to do it for Nia Jax, but not a tag team. And, yeah, I thought Bayley and Banks looked pretty slick as a team.
They did look really good, although my big takeaway from this, though, is that Coach said that, Sasha Banks and Bayley really dodged a bullet by not getting drafted to SmackDown. I'm like, way to bury SmackDown, Coach.
Then we got Braun Strowman. Well, Elias tried to promote his new album again, and then Braun came out. Elias sold this really well, the most out of anyone on the show.
We were trying to think of what's next for Bobby Lashley. You see like a 2-second gap between us talking and the Raw review starting. Actually, it's about a 20-second gap where we had a bit of a chat. Elias, I guess, will be the only person I can think that Bobby can face.
Yeah. The only possible person.
It's the only possibility. Finn's going to be tied up with Corbin.
Battle of the Bobbies, man. Rude versus Lashley.
Oh no, because
in a booby on a pole match.
But Rude's in the feud with Mojo.
Oh yeah, forgot about that pre-show. So Braun comes out, and before we can get on with the actual wrestling stuff, congratulations to the women. You've all worked really hard. In particular, my mixed match challenge partner Alexa Bliss. He saved it for me. I was ready to rage at them doing this to Strowman. Like, just imagine, Dave Meltzer pointed out, imagine if they did this to The Undertaker. Imagine if they did this to Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I just want to say all the women out there done real good, son.
Yeah. But when he did it to Alexa Bliss, and the crowd were like, they got very excited for a Braun Alexa love angle, and Braun just like, this seemed like an impro. Calm down. Yeah. And I just thought he dealt with it very well. It was organic. I liked it a lot.
He and Alexa are the only two people that still reference Mixed Match Challenge because they had a storyline in there that I feel like that they want to do something with. But Alexa is very much a heel and he's very much a babyface.
So I think it's like everyone's memories have been wiped. But they didn't take the pills. And so no one else knows that Mixed Match Challenge ever happened. But they remember it all.
So they're
trying to keep this love story going. It's like a Black Mirror episode.
Well, I was going to say, they're the ones who remember the Genie movie Shazam with Sinbad. You know this?
Oh, don't go into this.
I love it, though.
It's really not relevant to anything.
Google it. It's fascinating.
Okay, so then Strowman starts bragging on Bobby, and Roman said it doesn't matter who wins because I've got a beef case. But then Kevin Owens returns. Can't really call it a return. Don't call it a comeback.
I thought he was going to be out for much longer to sell the injuries, and
he was selling it.
No. I mean, like to really, really sell this is like he can't even come into work. And he said that he was upset that Braun Strowman only cares about the title because he threw Owens off a cage 20 feet down. He crashed through a table. He said, I was trying to be friends. And then he started talking about his kids. He said, it was my son's idea because he thought that if we were friends, he could then be your new tag team partner like Nicholas was at WrestleMania. Now my daughter is so afraid to watch me walk down the stairs. And I suddenly thought, I was like, God, I feel so sorry for Kevin Owens here because Braun's being a complete dick and bullying him.
I felt sorry for Owens, but I also thought he showed a bit more seriousness. And this was all still kind of comedy based, but I got flashes of old Kevin Owens.
Oh,
here.
I did not.
Really,
absolutely
very.
Not.
You might, if you blink, you might have missed those flashes.
Okay.
I felt like there was a bit more seriousness about him, and I really hope they. Oh yeah, I'm just deflated. I could be very angry about this whole episode. Or I could just choose. I could take Jinder's advice and breathe. Segue. Baron Corbin comes out before Owens reveals what he wants to do and says...
His reveal was that Corbin was coming out.
Was it?
I think so.
I thought that paid off later with the Stephanie stuff.
No, I thought the whole point of this was that he wanted to bring out Corbin because he says your problems have just begun. And that was to bring out Baron Corbin so Baron Corbin could bring out Jinder.
That's stupid.
I think. That's how I read it.
I mean, why not just... It wasn't good stuff, whatever format it took. Baron Corbin comes out and he's like, yeah, what you did was morally reprehensible.
First he made fun of Finn.
After making fun of Finn. And then he says, to help you and understand peace and stuff, here is Jinder Mahal because he's got a new gimmick, remember? And Jinder and Sunil...
Yes, Sunil Singh,
try to do some breathing techniques with Braun. This guy... was the WWE champion, and he made SmackDown almost unbearable to watch in the main event scene for 6-7 months last year. And it was all for nothing.
He beat Shinsuke Nakamura twice, clean, basically, on pay-per-view, in 2 pay-per-view in a row.
He's not even like he is now a credible mid-carder, Jinder.
He's not even mid-card, man.
But no, that's what he could be. That's
okay,
what
he could be, yeah.
But they're not like all that stuff, all that push. It's just they're like, nah, we'll repackage you from the ground up. Yeah. When he's got something now, but they don't even care about that.
Dave Meltzer had an amazing tweet I saw the other day, which when someone asked him, was like, how did the India experiment and Jinder go? And how did the India experiment go? Their expansion there, and Dave Meltzer's just like, look at Jinder's position on the card, and that'll tell you everything you need to know.
They sent Braun over there. That was a little video package before he came out here. It was like Braun went to India. And he did some press. And he hugged some kids.
Well, Jinder didn't work, did it?
Yeah.
Got to try someone else.
And then Braun beats Jinder and Singh up. I thought this was going to be the start of Braun's SummerSlam feud.
I thought the same thing. I thought, because Jinder was looking at him, I was like, okay, so we're going to build to a Jinder-Braun match at SummerSlam. But no, we're not. We're getting... Well, we'll come on to that, I suppose.
We got Mickie James beating Natalya again. Mickie James dressed as the White Ranger.
Yeah, she was a bit Super Saiyan. They announced that Trish Stratus, Lita, and Beth Phoenix will be on the Evolution pay-per-view. And Mickie James won. She won the match. A bit of communicate. Well, she got... Natalya got distracted by Alexa Bliss and then lost. I think they're going to be building towards Mickie and Trish at Evolution to do like a big marquee. Hey, remember this feud? I think that would be one of their big matches.
That's the rumor. Is that a rumor? Is that
no? Mickie and Trish, like Mickie sort of asked for it on Twitter, but I think that's giving Mickie a win here just seems to, like, you need to start building her up for October.
So, speaking of, let's just stop this wrestling show that you're enjoying so we can have some PR nonsense that's out of the main narrative and it just exposes everyone as playing characters rather than being the characters. Just imagine if Marvel or any other movies did that, where they just stop midway through fighting Thanos to get a cup of tea, or just announce all the good stuff that Marvel does for kids, and then they go back to fighting.
Like Star-Lord is about to shoot off against Thanos, and he's like, "Oh, but before I do that, here's some photos of me with some Make-A-Wish kids. Look how great I was. I even went in costume."
Yeah. There was a sports humanitarian awards video package thing where Roman Reigns cuts a terrible promo. Like, it was an acceptance speech. He was accepting the award on behalf of WWE. He is so wooden in this.
It's so rehearsed.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly rehearsed. And I did not get on with this at all. And it was WWE. It was an ESPN arranged thing as well. And given their relationship, God, I wonder how WWE won that.
And then it goes from Roman Reigns cutting that promo into Roman Reigns backstage saying he's gonna whoop Brock Lesnar's ass eventually.
Yes, I did like Dasher saying like, "Hey, you lost to Bobby at Extreme Rules. Why is tonight going to be any different?" Which I thought was actually a decent way to ask that question. Roman says that he's done a lot in the last 5 years. Apparently, he's the most decorated star in the last 5 years in sort of like the modern era. Which actually, when you think about it, he's won every belt. He's won the Royal Rumble. He's main evented WrestleMania 4 times. He won Money in the Bank. No, he hasn't won Money in the Bank. It's about the one thing he hasn't done.
Hasn't won the Universal title.
No, he's the rightful champion though. So he's pretty much done everything there is to do. So, I mean, he's not wrong there. He's got quite the black eye on him as well. And then he talks about being shoved down people's throats. He's like using these sorts of buzzwords to rile up the internet fans. And he wants them all to shut their mouths.
Yeah.
Cool.
Then we got the Authors of Pain come out, this time interrupting Elias's performance again.
Just a reminder, Authors of Pain, that really dominant tag team that are just absolute destroyers and monsters. Please continue.
They come down and they say, we want competition, not just Titus worldwide week after week. How do you do that? A whistle.
Yep.
Titus worldwide come out, of course. And so Titus says, hey, you guys need to learn some locker room respect. And then Apollo is like, I will take it from here, Titus.
Can I tell you my favourite
This man has taught me what it is like to be a good human being. Titus is amazing.
Can I tell you my favourite bit of this?
Sure.
Which is when Titus comes down and he said, and I rewound this to make sure that I heard this correctly, he says, you guys have a lot to learn. And Razor says, what can you learn us?
What can you learn us? Oh, you done effed up, boy.
What can you learn us?
So Apollo here is saying Titus is amazing. He's taught me all these things
He's
to
a
make
great dad.
Yeah, to like make it as a human being, not really as a wrestler. And I'm like, you're the bottom of the card. You're a joke act.
And then Akam makes fun of Titus' wild slide. I was like, God, this makes you sound so lame. Oh, we'll learn something from you. How about we learn to fall over? Yeah.
So I didn't hate Authors of Pain's
I did.
like stuff, but they would be a lot more effective if they never had to talk. And
This
you
is
still
why
had
you
Paul
gave them
Ellering.
Paul Ellering.
Yeah.
Exactly. You give them a manager so these two don't have to cut promos.
You want to package something as nicely as possible. And this is not the most effective packaging of Authors of Pain. And speaking of not effective, Titus and Apollo start a brawl with AOP, and they stand tall. AOP walk out.
AOP retreated from Titus worldwide. Deary me. This was an absolute effing failure of a segment. This actually got me more angry than anything else on the show. This was an absolute travesty and a dreadful segment.
And it's especially with all the PR stuff throughout the show about the women's segment. I personally felt that this, like, Titus only got this because he's been positioned as an absolute jobber for the entire year, and a joke, really, with what they did with him with Titus World Slide. That was the company making fun of him, not like other wrestlers. Now they're like, no, you pointed out some very valid points about us bringing back Hulk Hogan so here's something. It was just so cynical and so transparent. It's like, oh, this is when, the week after Titus says these things on Twitter, is when he gets to finally stand tall against, at the expense of a much, much
better tag team.
Yeah, team with a lot more potential. It was, just horrible. Just
awful.
All round awful.
Awful crowd. Speaking of awful, backstage, Angle was with Stephanie talking about how great she is for making the pay-per-view.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Weren't you feuding at WrestleMania? Like, didn't these two hate each other? Weren't they, like, at each other's throat? They wanted to, like, cost each other their jobs. And yet here they are going like, God, you're great, Steph. That announcement you made was awesome. Thank you very much for that.
You know what would have been a lot more effective, maybe? I'm just still trying to work out ways to weave the women's pay-per-view announcement into a storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And just somehow do it using Ronda. Like, Ronda's the one that has got this for the women against Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah.
And, like, Stephanie, like, eventually, oh, God, you forced me to do it. You'll get a Ronda pay-per-view.
Well, so you're thinking of, like, Eric Bischoff in the X Division, the Destination X 2011 pay-per-view that we did for Patreon.
Yeah. I don't know how it would work.
I actually watched, when I was doing the editing for the podcast, I watched the Before the Bell special they used to do, where it's like, they kind of explain storylines. That explained how they got that pay-per-view, which you and I were really confused about while watching it. It's the network demanded that they get the show, which is why Eric and Hogan had to put the show on.
So Stephanie and Kurt are talking backstage about women, aren't they lovely? And Kevin Owens and Baron Corbin walk in and pitch for a match at SummerSlam for the briefcase, for Braun Strowman's briefcase. And Stephanie, despite just being a babyface and announcing the women's pay-per-view, goes, it's not a bad idea. You've got that match, briefcase on the line, drives away in a limo.
The key to this as well is that Kevin Owens can win it through any means. So if Braun gets counted out, he still wins the briefcase. If Braun gets DQ'd, he still wins the briefcase. So there's lots of ways for Owens to win. Braun, the babyface, is at the disadvantage.
But there was a funny bit at the end where when like Stephanie confirmed that, Kevin Owens hugged Baron Corbin right away and then was, oh no, my arm hurts. It's really well done.
He went to hug Stephanie because she was holding out her hand for a handshake. And then he was like, oh yeah, no, let's shake a handshake. Yeah, we don't hug.
Yeah.
And then he just looked at Corbin and then this really quick embrace. And he went, oh no, ouch, my shoulder.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
That was good. Mojo Rawley beat Tyler Breeze.
Oh, you didn't click on last week's video accidentally midway through this. This was just done again.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby did an inset promo and said nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing was said.
But he probably said glorious. I can't remember.
I don't even think he said that.
I think, like, when I see him, like, I just hear mute and he's just going glorious, glorious, glorious. Glorious, glorious, glorious.
So he's like the adults from Peanuts.
Yeah. Or he's a sim now. Dolph and Drew had a promo.
Sorry on that one. I actually think that Mojo hitting the sit-out Alabama Slam is much better than him just doing an Alabama Slam. I thought that looked pretty wicked, actually.
Every week it's what move can replace Mojo's finisher with you.
Well, because he's not going to use the bloody pounce, so I've got to try and find a better one. This was a much better one.
And we got the Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre match, which started with Elias trying again. And I think it would be a lot better if, like, this would have worked better if Elias just started performing, like, as he was meant to, and then the people interrupt him. Not, oh, next up, we've got this match. Then Elias starts to perform. Then the match happens. Like, it's, well, I always know who's going to interrupt him. It's given away the punchline.
Yeah, exactly.
So Balor walks out. The two had, I thought, like, a pretty frantic match. It was all action. Both guys were going really fast. And Dolph interferes as Balor's got the upper hand. And he's about to do the coup de grace, but Dolph pushes him off the turnbuckle.
Yeah, for the DQ, and then Seth runs down to make the save. Angle comes out and makes this a tag team match. I had written that note before he'd even come out.
And they had, surprise, surprise, considering the four guys in here, these are probably like the four most exciting in-ring wrestlers on Raw, a bloody fun match.
This was the best thing on the show. By leaps and bounds, this was the best thing on the show.
Yeah, and it's always, for me, it's the... Seth Rollins is the Okada of WWE in quite a few ways. And mainly, it's just how exciting he can make those finishing sequences. And it's weird how it always ends the same way. I tried to do a curb stomp. I'm stopped from doing a curb stomp. I do the curb stomp. I win. But I don't know how he varies it up. It always feels different. I never know when the curb stomp's going to happen, even though there's a very clear pattern from the past matches. He's just amazing. He's so hot right now.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. This was very, very, very good.
And Seth gets a win over Dolph, and just proving that Dolph is just nothing. He's just like, what has he done, really, apart from win the title with other people's help?
Yep, and defended with other people's help as well. And then backstage, you did an interview with Mike Rome. We got a wild Mike Rome appearance. Dasher was obviously busy somewhere else. And Seth plugged the women's pay-per-view and said that was really awesome. But then he said he's got
priorities.
But then he said he's got a match at SummerSlam, and he goes to walk off. And then Mike's like, well, what's the match? He's like, oh, it's me and Dolph for the IC title. And I thought, oh, man. I've seen this about 5 times in the last 3 weeks.
And he'll be facing Drew next week.
Yes.
Which will hopefully be a bloody corker.
Well, the last time they had a match, it was great, so yes.
Yeah. Bobby Lashley says why he's back. These kinds of big matches, that's the reason.
Cool.
Ignore Extreme Rules. Then there was a second recap of the women's pay-per-view announcement. So we'd already had the segment itself, then another one, the first recap, and this was the second recap.
In amongst all the other people going like, hey, have you heard the announcement?
Yeah. And then we got Ember Moon. So you got this, women's revolution, evolution, really big deal. And now you get an Ember Moon versus Liv Morgan. The crowd died.
Oh, they were so quiet.
So, like, the entrances, well, look, people are coming down. Bell rings.
Definitely
it's like someone
silence.
presses mute. I could hear a conversation. I swear. What are you going to have for dinner later? Yeah, I think let's go to this place.
Yeah.
That's what the crowd sounded like.
More of the show is left? God, traffic, man. It's going to be really bad.
And it's a shame because I've really turned a corner on Ember Moon. I love her, and I love the Total Eclipse. Ember Moon's awesome.
And you can't call it the Total Eclipse, it's just the Eclipse.
Oh, is it? Oh, of course.
You're thinking of the Heart.
Yeah. No, it's always the Total Eclipse in my head. I don't know where we're going to go from there.
No, absolutely not. But Moon won, and she's great. And I feel like she's beaten Liv Morgan now, just week in, week out, apart from when she lost to Sarah Logan last week.
Do you ever sometimes think Liv Logan in your head?
No.
Sarah Morgan? I think their surnames are too similar for them.
Well, that's why they got put into this team. That's why they're so riotous. Their names sound alike.
Oh, that's the reason Sarah Logan's in this team.
Exactly that, and gay meat.
So that was a match. Ember Moon still doesn't really have a storyline, despite being 4 months on the main roster.
This is her storyline.
No, this is a series of matches.
She's feuding with the Riot Squad, I think.
And I guess we've already talked about the Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley main event. There was a bit of Elias in there as well. We finally got to perform, and he spoke to something called Awe.
Yeah, I mean,
they
got their own photo gallery on WWE.com, so they're clearly a big deal. I'm sure everyone's going to let us know in the comments. We'll get tweets about it, who they are. I don't know.
Maybe they're a sports team.
Could be.
Professional rowers.
Where they? Cincinnati. Maybe they're the Cincinnati Oars.
Yeah. But just before then, there was a trailer for Mission Impossible Fallout in my feed. God damn, I want to see that movie. One of the only franchises that gets better, aside from the Mission Impossible 2, with every installment.
Yeah. Also,
wow.
My favourite GIF of the year comes from that as well, which is when Henry Cavill does his little punching boxing thing.
Yes.
But as he does it, he grows a beard. Have you noticed this? No, there's a GIF. You can find it online. When he does it, the CGI on his face, puts more shadow, puts more beard on his face.
The CGI on his face.
I don't know what.
He's a real person.
I know.
That's not a CGI Cavill.
But when he does it, he goes from clean shaven, with the tash, to stubbly beard.
Speaking of Sinbad and conspiracy theories, we're going to look back on the Henry Cavill of 2016 to now and be like, what is going on with his facial hair? People won't know. People will watch Justice League in decades to come and go, what's happening here?
Why does his mouth look so weird? Although I don't think anyone's going to be watching that movie in 20 years. No one watched it last year.
Warner Brothers would have erased it from everyone's memory. No, that never happened. No. It was the Matt Reeves Batman film. So what would you give this episode overall?
I would have certainly gone with a poor. The finale of the show left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth because my final note really here is whoop-de-doo. It's Roman versus Brock again.
Whoop-de-doo, Basil.
Yeah. So I had very little interest in this show, and in fact, aside from the Seth and Finn stuff with Dolph and with Mac and Dolph, I didn't really enjoy much else on the show. Everything else was just sort of there.
Yeah.
The AOP thing really annoyed me, but everything else was just there. It was such a filler episode, considering it's so historic.
Tag match was the only out-and-out success on the show. The
Deletes the World, right?
No, the Mac and Dolph versus Balor and Rollins. Because everything else, the only other two good bits, the Reigns-Lashley main event, I really enjoyed, but really disappointing end result. And the women's announcement at the start, as good as that is, and it was great, as much as I'm looking forward to it, it was absolute bollocks to announce it in that way.
Yeah.
And not as a shareholder, maybe I would really enjoy that. But I'm a wrestling fan, and I thought it was absolute trash. And there's actually, if you enjoyed this episode, and you're like, oh, I don't know why you're so down on it. I enjoyed those two parts. Just go back and look at just a segment-by-segment recap. There was a lot of crap on this show.
And I wouldn't say there's a lot of crap. I would say there's a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
Like nothing on this show was overt, apart from the AOP thing, nothing was overtly bad. It was just nothing.
Natalya versus
Mickie James. Like, it was nothing.
Mojo Rawley versus Tyler Breeze.
Nothing.
Ember Moon versus Liv Morgan.
Nothing.
That tag match.
Just nothing.
Nothing.
Like, nothing really happened on the show. And it's 3 hours. You'd think
Yeah.
in 3 hours, by accident, you do something.
But it is SmackDown tonight. We're much more looking forward to that. Andy Datson will be on WrestleTalk's Twitter, so doing live fun stuff. So go over there to check that out.
He's such a nice chap.
He's very funny too. And he's back from holiday.
Yeah.
Even though he kept writing articles in Croatia.
I know.
What a legend.
With his humble brags.
Yeah. But that's all we've got time for today. By the way, I did 2 out of 5 as well. It was a pour for me. Click the videos that have just appeared on our laps to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk videos, and this button right here, which will subscribe you to the iTunes podcast version of this show with exclusive intros and outros. It's totally free. I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen, and that was Rambling.